Warwick Ellis. Firstly, thank you for purchasing the latest and most advanced testing equipment on the market for the general purpose range of products. This is a short introduction on the controller that's used for concrete, rock, CBR, Marshall and other general testing machines. This introduction is a short video. The aim of the video is to allow you to get your first test out of the machine. So it helps you through the very basic introduction to the controls. When you power the machine up, this is what the machine will look like down here. It's the Litest X control software. At the moment I've got this top display here, which is a load cell in a concrete compression machine, purely so you can see the load when it is being applied. The two machines are not calibrated the same, so please disregard the differences between the values while we're doing this demonstration. So you've just turned on the machine. It's brand new, out of the box, and the first thing you want to do is do a test. Of course, you want to put it on, turn it on. You turn the machine on, this is how it starts up. Over on the right here, you have a list of recently used templates. So, for example, I've been playing with this machine and I've got this one, this template here as a recently used template. Or we can start the test and create a template from scratch using this one with a brand new template. In this case, I'm going to select this template here. It's a concrete cylinder test, and I'm only going to run the machine up to about 100 kilonewtons for demonstration purposes. So I've selected the template. Any template you can select and you can change. So this is how we come up. Now we'll go through some of the buttons to do with the template. The first thing, we'll go down the menu on the left-hand side. Over here, we've got some general machine settings. Machine number one, the controller can do multiple machines, so there's a lot of technology that you won't use. We'll leave it in destination approach. There's lots of choices, destination, position and maintain. This is for when you're starting to develop a bit more complexity, but at the moment we're just doing a normal general test. Sometimes when you turn the machine on, you don't have this control over here. You need to have that enabled. At the moment we've got no handset. That's because we're using a computer to do the testing. In this case, we want the handset on. So we always want to show the handset. Okay. These are save buttons and file handling buttons up the top, which we'll go through in time. Down the left-hand side is we've got configurations and settings. So we've got a general machine, the handset displays what you're trying to see, right? Whether you want the force in newtons or kilonewtons, and it's basically a remote control handset that you can have, but in this case it enables these buttons. The next one down is sensor mapping. This machine only has one sensor. It's plugged into channel 1, so we've got this force sensor selected in channel 1. Let's look at the next menu section. In here we have the settings. This is just a text field, test demo. Oh, hang on, test demo. Okay, I've actually got it in there twice, so I'll go back. Rub out one of them. There it is there. To get out of this screen, you touch the keyboard. Right, so we've got test demo. User parameters, we've got no user parameters set. You can add user parameters such as your job number, the specimen number, and those types of descriptive items. The next box down here, we can select what you've got, whether you've got a cylinder, a cube, the dimensions of the cylinder. You also have this ability here to get the initial dimensions before each test. You can see I can turn it on and off. I've got it turned on, and I'll describe that a little bit later, where I will, you'll see this question on the cylinder dimensions pop up. You can change the name of these dimensions for display purposes. At the current time, I'll suggest you don't change anything to do with that. For example, you might have two distance measurers, you might have other things where you want better descriptions in due course. But for now, we're not going to worry about them. So that top section through there, general user parameter specimen measurements, are a bit of descriptive information. Now let's look at the test procedure. Here's the test procedure. The test procedure is broken into sections. You have a pre-test section, and then the order is not very smart here, but we have a pre-test, and then you have the test, and then you have post-test, and you've got events that happen throughout the test. So let's look at them. The preload, we can enable the preload or disable the preload, right? So if you want to have a preload, let's turn that on. So I've turned on the preload. The preload section is going to be at a speed of 5 kilonewtons a second, and it will stop when it gets to 7 kilonewtons. Okay, so we've stopped when it gets to 7 kilonewtons, the preload. We can change the thing into newtons, kilograms, force, etc., but we'll leave it on the units of kilonewtons. At the end of the preload, it will automatically tear because I've enabled the automatic tear. Okay, so that's the pre-test. So we've got a preload section. We'll skip post-test. We will then look at the data acquisition. We're capturing the data, a data point every 10 milliseconds. Right, every 10 milliseconds. So that's 100 data points per second we're capturing into the data tables for saving. You can obviously change the data acquisition. So the next thing after data acquisition, let's look at the test. So the test is going to be force control, right? In this case, I'm going to change the force control to 0.5 kilonewtons a second because I don't want it to be traveling too fast for the demonstration purposes. So this is where you set your pace rate for the testing. Normally for a 100 millimeter cylinder, you'll be talking 2.06 kilonewtons a second is the most common pace rate used in Australia. So that's the test. So the test period, we've got a pace rate. Now let's look at what happens during the test. And to do that, we have the events. At the moment, we've got brake detection, right? And brake detection, you don't want brake detection enabled at too low a load, or you'll get false breakages, like when you hit a little couple of grains of sand on the top of the specimen, etc. So I normally set that at about 20 kilonewtons or 15, 20 kilonewtons. Let's say 10% of the minimum load you're expecting. Right? The next thing about brake detection is we're going to look for a 15% drop in load. Just to explain what a 15% drop in load is, just drawn here. If we have a test that goes to 100 kilonewtons and we get a 15% drop or a 15 kilonewton drop, we're calling that the brake. So that's enabled to there. The other thing that I'm going to do on this particular test, because we only have a 100 kilonewton load cell in this machine, I'm going to limit the test. So I'm going to add another event. Right? In this case, I'm going to add a boundary detection. So you can see we've got the brake detection, now we've got a boundary detection, and the boundary measurement, I don't want it to be time, I'm going to put a force detection in, and I've got a 80 kilonewton, oops, it's on newtons, so we need to turn that to kilonewtons. So we've got a brake detection, and now we've got an 80 kilonewton force detection. So this test will actually stop exactly at 80 kilonewtons. So events, you'll develop more events as you know the machine more, but we're just trying to do a very simple test at the moment. We've talked about pre-test, we've talked about test, events. Post-test, let's have a look at post-test. Oh, we've talked about data as well. Post-test. What you can do with post-test, there's a lot of clever stuff. You can slow down, do different things. In our case, I want to open the bypass valve, right? I want to open the bypass valve to let the oil drain from the cylinder so we can take the specimen out. You have that level of control that you can actually control whether you leave the specimen loaded or let it drain like most conventional machine. We can leave the bypass valve to wait for a time. Let's just turn the bypass valve on for 30 seconds. So we've now got the bypass valve on for 30 seconds. That means for 30 seconds after the test finishes, the bypass valve will stay on to allow the cylinder to drop back, which is a pretty normal thing to happen. So we've now been through all the items in the test area. I'm not going to go any further at the moment because I'm just trying to teach you how to do a simple test. What we are going to do, we've done this. If I push the save button, it'll save all this information into the file, right? Or I can push the next one over and save it as a template. To start with, let's just push saved. Oh, it's asking me to save the test name. Back out. Let me back out of there. Cancel. Wrong one. Start again. That's saving a test at the end of the test with all the test data. This is actually saving the template. I can save it as something else, or I can save this as a template. I'm going to save it as a template because I want to reuse it again. Cylinder is 100 kilonewton limit. So this is the template. It tells me that it's already existing. Do you want to override it? I've now saved that template. So we've now saved that template. I can run the template, or let's go back and have another look and just go back to the start again. Unsaved data will be lost. So we're now back into the start screen. I can go into here again, loading the template, right? Let's go have a look at all the settings. Some of the things that we did last time, we'll go down to the procedure. You can see we've got preload enabled, 7 kilonewton. We go to the events. We've got, it hasn't saved it. have to look at that. I don't quite understand why that didn't save that. The test is set to 0.5. Right. So basically we've set everything up. I'm not sure why the event didn't save. Maybe I didn't push enter. Oh no, sorry, it is here. Look, there's the boundary. I had to actually click on it. There's the boundary where I set it to 80 kilonewtons. So as you can see, all the information they've just set, I saved it as a template. I'll go back out again. Sure, this will be lost. I'm okay, go back out. So look, if I go into there, I get that same test back again. Didn't mean to do that. Let's go back again. If this time I just go into new test, I can open standard templates, or in fact, you can actually open the templates in here as well. So I can open the user template that I just saved from this screen. You can also delete it and copy it, etc. So let's just open it up again. So we've now opened that test template that I told you about. We've got it all ready. To do a test, first thing we have to do is turn on the drive. We've now turned on the drive, which will enable the test. If I turn off the drive and try to run the test, it's popping up with that cylinder dimensions because I told it to pop up. Now it's telling me the drive's not ready. I'll turn the drive on, start the test. It's questioning me on the cylinder dimensions again. I accept that. It's now doing the preload section. Right, so what it's doing is it's going to preload up to 7 kilonewtons. You can just see we're at a 3.5 kilonewtons, but we actually don't have anything on the load cell at the moment. So it's approaching the specimen now. It's getting close. When we get to 7 kilonewtons here, the test will actually start. We're now starting to get a little bit of load, so we've actually touched the specimen. And you'll see this start to go up now as well. Right, don't worry about the differences between the number. I've just got that so you can actually see the load being raised. At 7 kilonewtons, the test will start. Now it's zeroed it, and away we go. You can see the control, we're at 5 kilonewtons. Beautiful pace rate line, dead straight. We only have a few kilonewtons to go. I've cut out a section of the video just to shorten the video by a couple of minutes. $80 kilonewtons, it stopped. It detected the upper boundary. You'll notice that the bypass valve is open. Right, it's opened. If I just tip this up a bit, there's the specimen in the machine. And now we've got I can actually pull the specimen out because it's unloaded. If we didn't open the bypass valve, you wouldn't be able to do that. And you'll see now the bypass valve thing stopped. Here's your graph. We can save that, we can export it, etc. But better still, you can actually rerun the next test. Right, we go start. You can turn on and off graphs, by the way, but let's do it. We're going to just start the machine again. Exactly the same test. Preload started. Our load's going up already. There's the 7 kilonewtons, so we're underway, and you'll notice that on the graph we've got the last test and the new test. Running on the same graph. And so every test, and down the bottom of the screen here you can see we've got one test, and if I highlight them, if I touch that, I've highlighted the red one. If I touch that, I've highlighted the green one. And you can have as many tests down here as you want. We'll stop it now. Stopped by the user, okay. Here's the test results. If we save those test results, TTTT, WE, and today's date is the 19th/3/25. Okay. I think that's about it.